everybody, Paul Vaillancourt here, and welcome back to another What Were You Thinking video here on Improv Tips. My guest today is Brian O'Connell. Now, you may know him from this video, this improv tip that he did a little while ago, or you may know him as a fancy movie director, or you may know him as one of the moving forces over at the Pack Theater, but today, know him as a guy who is on fire for improv. Just on fire for improv, man, since the moment I met him. And that is what made this conversation so fun. We got really deep into it, really behind baseball in some ways. It is a wide-ranging conversation. We talk about everything from Fast and Furious to charcuterie trays to Bruce Lee to politics and philosophy. It covers it all. It is a giant-sized episode of What Were You Thinking? So please get a snack, get ready. I'd like to say thank you to Brian O'Connell for being my guest and doing this, taking the time out to do this fun video with me. And right now, please sit back, relax, and enjoy me and Brian O'Connell. All right, so we're going to do a scene, and then we will stop and watch it back and talk about it, and sort of talk about our thought process. The word that we were inspired by today is crumb.
Oh, yeah. Great, thank you.
I'm very nervous.
Was it a good party?
It was a great party.
It felt like a good party.
It was a great party.
It was okay. It was a good party. I was like, I don't know. I was a little nervous. I guess I'm being silly.
You're totally being silly, man. Look, if you want to move up from party chair to president of this frat, you got to realize when a good party's a good party, dude.
I just don't know if I'm ready for that responsibility yet, man. Like, that's a lot of
responsibility. We have our late night honest chats. You say, my number one goal is to be president of this frat.
I do say that.
Now, do you stand by that, or are you lying during our truth talks?
I would never lie during our truth talks.
Yeah, right?
All right. I'm going to be president.
Yeah, man.
But like, I'm going to be different than previous fraternity presidents because I'm going to be open to inclusivity and diversity and other voices, right? It's not just about us, it's about the mark that we make on the world. That's what being a Sigma Nu is all about.
Yeah, dude. And I see you say that. Mm-hmm. I see doubt in your eyes.
Mm-mm.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I'm positive. I believe this. Open arms is not weakness.
Right. Oh, no, I know.
I
know that's your platform, dude.
Yeah.
But do you have the guts? Do you have the sharp teeth to take it, to rip out Victory's throat? I mean, Donnie McGaskill, he wants to be president too.
Yeah, conceptually, yes, I want to rip out Victory's throat. In reality, no, I think it's better if leading by leadership is with committees and all that. But Donnie can't do that. He doesn't have half the juice that I do when it comes to.
He's rush chair, dude. That's a good job.
He's rush chair, sure, for this fraternity. But you know me, man. I've been going out to other chapters during the summer.
Yeah.
Right? I've been going out and making sure and meeting the hands of friendlies. I'm thinking of a larger, brander, grander vision for Sigma Nu. It starts this moment here, and you being my brother, tell me the stuff I need to hear.
Yeah, man.
Now, what are your plans? Let's do it. I flipped it on you.
I'm gonna. I don't know, dude. I just been lifting you up.
I don't know is an okay answer, but only for now.
Yeah, I just been the wind beneath your wings, dude.
Yeah, but now it's time for you to fly.
On my own, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where am I gonna fly to?
I don't know. What do you want?
I want a serious girlfriend. I want a serious girlfriend. I didn't even realize that for just a second.
You want a serious girlfriend, and that's about right, man.
Yeah.
You're going into your junior year.
Yeah.
It's time for you to start maturing and being the man that you're supposed to be.
Totally. Yeah, I'm done being a boy. I want to be a man now.
Thank you very much.
I want you to erase my Pornhub account, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
We went from 0 to 60.
I know.
Someone is definitely living their life a quarter mile at a time right in front of me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm done. I'm setting off boy things, and I'm turning to be a man now.
Yeah. No more beer. Let's start drinking wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get like a keg of wine? Right? Like the big,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about
No, of course.
Yeah, right, yeah. Right?
Wine comes in barrels.
Yes!
Kidding.
Barrels, yes,
Of course.
perfect. And that's it.
If it was good enough for the Roman legionaries, it's good enough for us.
Good enough for us.
That's right. Italians didn't drink beer.
No.
The Romans didn't drink beer.
No.
They drank wine.
Wine.
Olives.
Sophistication.
They're right. Thin breads. Thin meat split out. They hated beef. That was a cool thing I just found out.
So you're saying you want to bring like a nice charcuterie tray to this frat?
What is the word you just said? Charcuterie?
I don't even know where that came from, man.
What?
I don't know.
Is that what they call the thing with like meats and cheese?
I think so.
And every time there's like a sprig of rosemary on top, just
Dude,
like...
I think so. I think I'm channeling
Then
my man energy. Dude.
Then I absolutely want that because it's perfect. It's sophisticated. It's very GQ. It's very Mad Men, but we're still eating meat.
Yeah.
I think we're on to something.
I think we're totally on
I think we're on to something. And if I want to be president, you know who's not thinking about charcuterie plates?
Donnie McCaskill.
Thank you. What Russian chair are you doing there, my friend? No,
Yeah. He's rushing himself into the history books.
Yeah. I'm going to be president. You're going to be in a serious relationship. We're going to start turning on the rest of the brothers onto like wine and being Roman soldiers, but nothing weird. Like I don't want to go too far where it becomes like a Proud Boys thing.
Yeah,
that's
no,
lame.
no,
That's
no,
not
no.
good.
It's still inclusive, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like aggressively inclusive.
Aggressively inclusive. Being the change we want to see in the world, using our natural, white, straight, heteronormative anger, energy, but for the forces of good. You know, like when Superman gets like really angry and he's had like enough. And he's just like, stay down! And his eyes get all red because he's gonna do lasers, but he's not. And he's like, stay down! Right? Yeah, that's what we need to be. We need to be like that Superman.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got pissed.
Okay, so now we've done the scene. Now we're going to watch it back and talk about our thought process and what we were thinking while we did it.
Yeah, great.
Brian, first of all, I want to say I'm so excited to have you here because I've loved everyone that I've been able to do this with, but what I really sort of love about you is you think and talk so deeply and passionately about improv. I'm really interested to sort of get into this and see kind of what you're thinking.
Thank you.
about.
That means a lot to me coming from you.
My
Really
pleasure,
appreciate it.
absolutely, and I mean every bit of it. Okay, so we're just going to start up here, and we have this, the suggestion, and so I'll just scooch ahead a little bit. Suggestion is crumb.
Crumb,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're doing this, and the intro, blah, blah, blah. The word that we were inspired by today is crumb. Great. So let me ask you this. So when you hear the suggestion, right, what is your initial sort of move from there?
I know there's always like two schools of thought sort of thing of like Bill Binder in Phoenix is always like, you know, the suggestion is sacrosanct and it's our job to like squeeze all the psychic properties out of it. And then Miles is always like, the suggestion is just there as an inspiration to like, as a jumping off point. So I sort of lean towards that a little bit. And then so depending upon the suggestion, I teach a thing that I came up with, or like my version of it. I'm sure 10,000 people have come up with this idea before me. But like there's only 3 ways to initiate a scene, which is like thing, concept, idea. Thing is just space work. Concept is just the environment or whatever emotion. A very Kevin Dorff start of, you got nothing. Or an idea, and if my idea isn't sparked immediately where I'm turning and looking at you and I've got a premise on that, then I just literally did crumb. I'm like, here's space work.
Great.
I'm doing space. And since it's just a thing, I'm at that point I'm completely open to whatever the other improviser gives me. He's like, you seem really nervous. I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, and so now it's just yes to that.
Yeah. So in that first thing, so yeah, I see you sort of brushing the crumbs off and sweeping, and I just, again, I've said this in some other videos, but you just sort of like read your party, you look at them, you sort of get that vibe, and then you just say it out loud, and then that's it.
That's the thing. That's when I teach this, I tell everybody, I'm like, if you start with a thing, don't worry like, well, I don't want to label it. I think he's folding clothes, but I don't want to say it. I'm like, look, man, I don't have an idea. I have a thing. Right. If I'm shoveling, I'm like, please tell me what I'm shoveling. I don't care. So as soon as, it was so great because as soon as you were like, you seem really nervous. I'm like, was it a good party? Like, I didn't think I was going to say party. He was like, it was a great party. And then bam, bam, bam. And then fraternity brother. I'm like, great. And now we're all.
Yeah, and we sort of, because you said party and I thought roommate, I ran through a bunch of ideas, but I think we're sort of like at the top doing that thing where you sort of make a million choices like super quick.
Yeah.
Try to define stuff down. It was nice. And that's sort of like really nice. Like, I am sort of nervous. Let's see that first one.
Yeah, just very nervous.
Was it a good party?
It was a great party.
It felt like a good party.
It was a great party.
It was okay. It was a good party. I was like, I don't know. I was a little nervous. I guess I'm being silly. I love this too because we get it and we're being all like this. Because that's the thing that Miles gave me. He was like, it's never too early to drop the baby, never too late to adopt a French accent. So by the time we're all broing out and stuff, no one's remembered this.
Right.
No one's remembered I don't know. I was so much.
Right.
Because they're like, so that's not where that's where my character started, but they didn't have to live there.
Right. And I think even though we're not sort of at our final incarnation, we're still making strong choices. So there's still something to watch. It's still stage worthy, and it's and I like that you're sort of finding it and you're sort of whatever, and you're
the lower you drop down nervousness, the more it ratchets me up.
Yeah.
Confidence-wise, I'm like, your friend, I'm going to try whatever. And then we're sort of still kind of orbiting it, and then it sort of comes into
if you
the
want to
focus.
move up
Like,
from party chair to
Yeah.
president of this frat, you got to realize when a good party's a good party, dude.
yeah, and that's where it comes. So now we're sort of like, I feel like this is really matches kind of what I think about a scene, which is like it comes into focus from like this little moment to the
Yeah.
relationship, to the, and then finally is the frame. The frame is two frat brothers after a
Right.
party, kind of bro talk.
Yeah, that's sort of like Keegan. I saw an interview with him. Whatever that like, it's not. It's called Behind the Scenes or something. All the interviews are done in black and white.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, and he quotes Tallarico in it, where like you're stepping back in the room gets a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
This also kind of reminds me of like a nice middle of the road. Because Miles and TJ talked about this once, and like Miles is like very big on like what's the first 30 seconds of the scene. Not so much the who, what, where, when, but he's like, but that's normally when scenes go awry because people aren't listening and that. And TJ is always like, well, what's the first 30 seconds after the first 5 minutes? Like, he was like, yeah, but you get to play with Dave and you get a whole fucking hour.
Right.
So what happens to like
sure.
what happens to the scene that needs to be only 30 seconds long? What are you gonna do there, TJ? And he was like,
Right.
Because they're talking about math and colors, and I thought this was a nice blend of those two. That we got to it, and we sort of, like you said, found it very quickly.
Yeah.
But there was like no rush or anything, and probably most of that too is because like it's very easy to be comfortable on stage with you. Because I'm like, Paul's got this.
Yeah, I think
Whatever dumb idea
I think
do.
that's that thing is like when I tell my students is one of the big things that separates experienced improvisers from new improvisers is
Oh, yeah.
experienced improvisers expect it to work out.
Yeah.
More or less. So you have a little bit of like, this is fine,
I
whatever,
did
fast,
10,000
slow,
reps.
whatever.
Yeah. The Coleman thing of like, you gotta watch 1,000 shows, you gotta do 1,000 shows, buddy. You gotta do 10,000 roommate scenes, kid. Nothing you can do about it.
That's a great. I'll link Mike Coleman's tip.
Oh no, Mike, don't be mad at me. I don't want the bear to be like awakened.
Responsibility yet, man. Like that's a lot
Dude,
of
we have our late night honest chats. You say, my number one goal is to be president of this frat.
I do say that.
Right, and that's interesting. Okay, so we're sort of like we're friends, and you say two peas in a pod, and this is like really down
Yeah.
the barrel of your philosophy.
Yeah, this is the idea position play that Miles invented. He didn't invent the scene types, but he definitely invented the language for what we call the scene dynamics. Of a straight absurd, character driven, alternate reality, and realistic.
Yeah.
Those are basically the 4 scenes you're going to find yourself. And each one of them has 2 to 3 things that you have to execute to make that scene work, going back thousands of years. Like so this is a character-driven scene, also known as shared POV, also known as 2 peas in a pod, absurd. Every theater in the world teaches a version of this. The Key and Peele of the valet sketches is one I always use as an example.
That's a great example.
But I always tell my students, I'm like, look, the character-driven scene goes all the way back, like thousands of years. The Greek chorus, 9 guys dressed the exact same way with the exact same mask on, saying the same thing. Like, no, Oedipus, don't have sex with your mother. What about the prophecy? It'd be weird if one guy was like, I don't know, have sex with her. See what happens. So as soon as you were like, as soon as you said fraternity brothers, and I was like, yeah, I am like that. And so by the time I've sat down in the chair, I'm like, I do say that. I'm locked in. Like all I know I have to do is I just have to mirror you because it's a character-driven scene. And the only thing you have to do in character-driven scenes is mirror and heighten. And we're either going to both heighten by saying how awesome or how awful something is, or we're trying to one-up each other. As soon as you were like being very positive, like, that's what you say. I do say that. All right, we're cool with each other, and we're just going to keep saying. And if a problem comes up, it's Donnie's fault.
Right.
It's never going to be between you and me. And then I can play that for days.
I think that's a really interesting thing, and so that's not how I play, right? And that's not. I have understanding of it from you and the conversations we've had about it.
Sure.
Talking to Miles about it a little bit, but when I'm playing, I'm not thinking that. So let me ask you this
Yeah.
sort of bigger question: It's like when you play with someone, like you play with Dr. God.
Yes.
You play with people from the Packers who are really sort of steeped in this philosophy. But let's say you go out into the wide world or here, and you play with me. Like, do you still feel like you get as much use out of those tools because you're just
100%.
guiding your side of the scene and like
I think 100% so. Only for a thing like this, or when I do my one-on-one teaching, am I thinking about position play while I'm doing it. And even then, it's only a blip. I'm going like, character-driven, good, great. And then it just releases me in the pressure from having to worry about the 90 other things that don't have to worry about because they're not the things that are intrinsic that you have to execute this type of scene. But when I go and travel and do festivals or play with people I've never met before in all-star
sure, right.
jams
Yeah.
or mashup teams or whatever like that,
Position play is still very because I can do what they do, but they can't do what I do. But it doesn't matter in that moment because I just take my hands off the wheel. Very much like Fight Club, where I put the seatbelt on, I took my hands off the wheel, and I'm like, whatever's going to happen. And without fail, usually character-driven scenes is what I end up doing because the greatest compliment you can give to another improviser is like, I like what you're doing so much that I'm going to do it too. And afterwards, they're like, man, that was such a great lawnmower scene. How'd you come up with all that stuff? I'm like, just repeating the shit that you said, and then add another thing. Awesome. You're this guy. I'm this guy too. Yeah, I'm not in my head going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
So you feel like that at this point for you, those scene types and their sort of requirements, or whatever, have sort of graduated to habits. And you you sort of subconsciously find yourself in that groove, and then your body just knows kind of what to do in that groove.
And I like, because I'm a huge NBA fan. I liken it to like, the guys that are like, oh, he's a real gym rat. He gets up 1,000 jump shots a day. Like the muscle memory is just there. So that's. I was sitting down with the chair backwards, being very bro-ish, but it wasn't until like I do say that mentally I know like my body and physicality were already going into like, yeah, just be a frat boy. There's gonna be a character-driven scene. I do say that. Oh, I'm in a character-driven scene. So the body is sort of it's force of habit, muscle memory.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, great, excellent.
Now, do you stand by that, or are you lying during our truth talks?
I don't know where that even came from.
A truth talk.
Right. So at this point, so I'm like, I see that you're sort of saying these things, and I'm like really pushing on you because it's interesting because I'm sort of coming from a different angle. Like my initial gift that I gave you was nervous, so I'm pushing like, is that still there? And I'm sort of trying to squeeze that out and
make
see
it
if
worse.
there's any nervousness in there.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like ramping up. You're sort of rallying up. So it's interesting to see your character evolve in this.
Yeah, because again, I'm like, all I have to do is mirror you. And also, it's sort of my own personal philosophy, and I've really gotten more into this in the last couple of years as I see it more, specifically in Los Angeles, is like, I will do anything and everything I can to just not have an argument with you, to just not fight, to not, like, I hate it so much.
That's a
like,
good call.
I would rather, you're right, just lose. I'll just lose. You're right, I am an idiot. I'm stupid.
Right.
Like I'll let you do a scene with my corpse for 2 minutes and have a fight with you. I just can't anymore.
And I think I 100% agree. And I think that sort of really aggressive approach to yes and like I'm not going to leads us to interesting areas.
Yeah.
It's like we're not going to fight about it, and it leads to unlikely yeses. So it's all grounded in what's come before, and it's all organic to the scene. But it takes this other turn.
Yeah, and it reminds me of like Mick Napier a lot. That idea of like have your own strong thing, and you have your own thing. The other person has it. That doesn't mean you have to bludgeon each other to death with it.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that two strong characters can't also get along. Like Barack and Michelle Obama are both very strong, unique individuals, and they get along like gangbusters, and they've done pretty good for themselves.
Okay.
In personal and in professional lives. Like, can I have that scene with you, please?
Right, for sure.
Why do we have to just be like, well, now one of us has to get that promotion, and the other one is dead?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
I'm gonna be president.
Yeah,
But
man.
like I'm gonna be like different than previous fraternity presidents because I'm gonna be open to inclusivity and diversity.
This is me ripping off Joe Bill and Mark Sutton right now.
Mm-hmm.
Bass Prov. I'm like, here we are. I'm gonna be very bro-y, but I'm gonna have very progressive views. Just like Bass Prov. Of like they're two Indiana rednecks who have very radical left-wing views because that's the the give the audience what they want, but not the way they expect.
Sure.
Sort of thing.
I think this is so interesting because I think this, to me, is really sort of what I think of when I think of your work, which is sort of that dichotomy that it's never just this layer. It's this layer and then a really smart layer usually on top of it. In some way. Either it's filtering through your character or it's sort of like on top of your character. But I think this, to me, is like really it, where it's like, as an audience member and as a player, I'm challenged to like go from like, it's, to me, like I'm thinking, oh shit, we're not doing comedy, we're doing theater. We're sort of like upping the ante.
Yeah.
I feel that sort of lift in the scene.
I enjoy that, and thank you for that, because I'm kind of sort of looking, like, me and Justin Ware and Dr. God have been talking about that a lot lately. Like, once TJ and Dave started playing in New York, and then the documentary came out, Trust This Is All Made Up, and then the New York Times wrote about them, and then they started doing that show Stolen House with Bob and Steph and all that. I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, I'm sure it's still hilarious. It's still great, but like having that sort of, it's weird how it's 30 years that we've come full circle, kind of like you studied with Dell and I didn't, but like all I've ever heard from any of you guys is like that's whole Dell's thing of like make it theater.
Yeah.
And then like the dichotomy stuff is, I guess it's just who I am, because the idea of like an improv, like bring yourself to the stage.
For sure.
But along years ago, one of my teammates, we were hanging out at the bar at Iowa West, and someone was just like, I was like, BOC, like, are you a redneck unicorn? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, you're from the South and you like NASCAR and pro wrestling and fishing, but also you don't hate gay people, blacks, or women. So I was like, I guess I am. I guess I kind of am a redneck unicorn.
Awesome.
I was like, yeah. So this is sort of part and parcel of that. I'm like,
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting I'm a big believer in that. And one of the things that really initially attracted me to improv was that you bring your whole self to it.
Oh yeah,
and that's really interesting.
it's
So
the
you're
first thing to tell you that you're enough.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just pause for that idea for a second.
Yeah.
That you're enough. Yeah, man. And then I think that's so interesting to see. And I feel like this is, for me, I feel like this is a hallmark of your work.
Oh.
Like I feel like you can sort of play that punchline, like sort of that quick entrance and punchline, but then this to me is like vintage, where it's like smart and like now I'm just like, oh shit, I gotta really gotta pay attention. It's not just like butts and farts anymore. There's some shit happening up there.
My game.
Right, and I think it's
Oh,
really
that's
interesting.
really nice
I
of you.
absolutely think that, and it's
I
why
did
it's
that
such
to
a-
Miles one year in Phoenix. We were having a scene, and it was like a realistic grounded scene in the middle of it, and I started crying real tears on stage. And Miles said he looked and he was, oh, shit, Brian's committing way more to this scene than I am. I gotta up my game.
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, yay.
That's great, but I love that because I feel like a lot of times it's just like cotton candy or whatever, and I feel like, sort of going back to Dill for a second, I feel like his aspiration was a little bit bigger than that.
Absolutely, and it's sort of frustrating to me that the improvisers do it to themselves more than like, you don't see martial artists or painters or ballet dancers go like, yeah, but what we're doing is dumb.
That's true.
I'm like, they're putting in the same 10,000 hours that you are. They're running scales
Right.
and putting up jump shots, like, and throwing like, the Bruce Lee, like 10,000, one kick practiced 10,000 times.
Yeah, that's a good one.
God, and then he doesn't go out there and like, but don't make Enter the Dragon with me.
Right. That's a good one, man. That's good stuff. Okay.
Right? It's not just about us, it's about the mark that we make on the world. That's what being a Sigma Nu is all about.
Yeah, dude. I see you
I
say
pulled
that.
Sigma Nu out of my ass because I had no idea.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm positive.
Fraternity.
But that's great. That's a real fraternity. Hey.
It is a real fraternity, and the only reason I remember Sigma Nu, because I went to a conservative where we didn't have a Greek system, and my sister wasn't in a Greek system when she was in college, so like I have no idea. I know two fraternities. I know Alpha Kappa Alpha, because a girl I dated was president of that at Howard. It's like one of the traditional black fraternities. Kamala Harris is a AKA Green and Pink. And then I know Sigma Nu because one of the guys that was 2 years ahead of me in high school came back to hang out at a high school party, and he had his shirt on, and it was like the SN, and someone was like, "What is that, Sigma Nelta?" Like being innocent, and he just like made fun of that person all night for like, "No, it's Sigma Nu. Do you hear this? He thought it was Sigma Nelta." And I'm like, dude, you are the guy that's in college at a high school party.
That's what I was
so
gonna say.
Bring it down.
Because that is, I think, sort of like on the checklist of a guy going back to a high school party. Frat letters? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like,
make sure everyone knows I'm representing my
Absolutely.
fraternity.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, you're a sophomore in college. You're not even a big deal in your fraternity. You're a sophomore.
But it's nice. And so we're sort of
Yeah.
ramping this idea up and up,
Yeah.
and it's going higher and higher.
I believe this. Open arms.
Right, and then so I'm sort of pressing on this idea, like I initially said that you were nervous, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm pressing on, like, really? Are you really committed to that? I'm sort of like swinging back to this idea just to see where this goes, and you're like, no, I'm 100%. So I see that your character's like evolved.
It's not weakness.
Right, hold on, no, I know,
It's not
I know that's your platform, dude.
Yeah.
But you have the guts.
I love when you put the
you have
foot
the
up
sharp
on top of the
teeth
glass, like, all right,
to
yeah,
take
we'll
it,
do
to rip out Victory's throat. I mean, Donnie Gaskell, he wants to be president too.
Yeah, conceptually, yes, I want to rip out Victory's throat. In reality, no, I think it's better if, leading by leadership is, committees and all that, but Donnie can't do that. He doesn't have half the juice that I do when it comes to...
He's rush chair, dude. That's a good job.
He's rush.
Right, so I'm pressing on this. Right? Like I initially said you're nervous, but now I see that you're sort of in a different place where you're sort of coming back from that nervousness. So I just keep giving you that opportunities. Like, is this gonna do it?
Yeah.
Is this gonna do it? But you're like, no. You sort of overcome every one of those hurdles in this really interesting way. This sort of like getting you deeper and deeper. And also, this is a weird thing. Like I say, Donnie McGaskill is sort of like a foil, which is like technically like throwing someone, talking about someone
Yeah,
who's
the
not in
thing
the scene.
not to do, but
yeah.
the scene isn't. We're not describing someone that's more interesting than the two characters that we are. So that's usually always the way I'd heard you guys.
For sure. And I think it's nice that you sort of have a reaction to him, and we're like, oh, that's that guy, right? And now it's just like a little sort of like off stage, like we sort of like bing bing, bing bing, and it like reflects back into us.
Yeah, I always like to think of it because they did this twice and it worked both times. But it was Vera in Cheers, and then whoever Niles' wife was, you never saw that character.
Yes.
But they were such a good like, Vera's on the phone.
Right.
So Donnie McCaskill, so I do that in improv now. I'm like, as long as it just stays Vera and doesn't become Woody or Sam, someone that needs to be in the scene, then it's fine if it's someone that's off stage that's not in the scene. Yeah.
And I think sort of that thing is like as long as that offstage idea or that future or past idea circles back through our relationship somehow, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at. Cool. And you're sort of like ramping up more and more.
Chair, sure, for this fraternity. But you know me, man, I've been going out to other chapters during the summer.
Yeah.
Right? I've been going out and making sure and meeting the hands of families. I'm thinking of a larger, brander, grander vision for Sigma. It starts this moment here, and you being my brother, tell me the stuff, man. I need to hear.
Now I'm entering it right now because that's another thing that's not required in a character-driven scene, but it is helpful, which is the mantra. So Two Wild and Crazy Guys is probably one of my favorites.
Sure.
Because it's I'm so big into efficiency. It's the name of the sketch, it's the name of the characters, and it's the mantra. So like I was setting that up. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna come up, and you started this moment right here. Handshake, boom, that. So now I know I have that. If I can't, later on in the scene, if I can't think of the next thing to say, I know I'm just going to come up, but it starts from this moment right here. Boom. And we've got another hand.
Great. I call that the refrain of the character.
Yeah.
Whether it's like an action or like a physicality or like a little saying that they say, it's like their refrain. And you can always come back to it because it cycles your character up and up.
Yeah. And I also sort of point out to students as well, I was like, hey, like songs have choruses.
Right.
You're allowed to do that again. We talk about callbacks. Like, why can't your callback just be something that gets you, right? You're saying like reset and then now the next thing. If nothing else, it's going to buy you half a second to be like, all right, what hilarious thing do I want to say now?
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything.
For sure. But it's like, it's nice because it gives a sense of unity. Because that improv scene, I say this all the time, is not an ever widening angle of information. It's like these ideas that braid. So it's nice to sort of come back to that sometimes and like see like, oh, we're not just lost in space now. We're still sort of in that same world. But I love that little physicality, like boom, that's really fun for me. And that ramps me up. And that could have been the end of the scene.
For sure, yeah. Because if this was like in a larger group, if like it was an Armando or something, and they edited 8 minutes later, we can come back with.
For sure, yeah.
And then we're just starting all over again. People go, all right.
Yeah,
it's kind of like TV shows. We're like previously on The Walking Dead. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I totally, as we were doing it, I thought, is that the end of the scene? And then I was having so much fun. I was like, let's see what else happens.
Yeah.
And we're sort of playing past. So so what do we do now?
Let's do it. I flipped it on.
and I turn on you.
Right, which I think is super interesting at that point because it's like, well, stanza 1
Yeah.
is about you, and stanza 2 then is about me.
Yeah.
And then stanza 3 is sort of about both of us.
Yes.
Kind of. It's the scene has a lot of different movements in it.
Yeah, and to me, it's sort of just like comedy 101. Like, again, I don't believe in any such thing as cheating in improv. If it works, it works.
Right.
The only way it could be cheating is we wrote it out ahead of time, and then it would be sketch, and therefore it's no longer improv.
Right.
So I'm like, steal it, use it, it's fine. So this is a claim thing. Like, I guess it's probably sort of like my director and editor brain as well. I'm like, all right, what do you want? I was like, now it's my turn to put the foot up on the chair. We redo that, so we sort of read it, and then that way we can go back and forth forever and ever. Like, we can always do the hug thing. And then you put your foot up on the chair, and I go, okay, now it's my turn to be worried about this, and we can go back and forth. Because I do think that if done, I don't want to say correctly or properly, but if we're in a rhythm like that, then the argument is that you can do a scene infinity.
Yeah.
Because you can always have those pieces back and forth to go to, and it's recognizable to the audience. Visually, they understand it. They feel comfortable. You and I are comfortable and calm in it, and we just do it back and forth. And then again, trusting that character-driven scenes, it's not the rule of threes, it's the rule of 18s. You have to do it over and over and over again, and just trust that if it's not funny at some point, it'll be hilarious later. You just keep doing it.
Commit to it, hang on to it.
These guys again, Jesus.
So then at this point, when you turn on me, then I sort of take on your gift from the beginning.
Yeah,
Like now
I
I'm
don't know.
nervous
Is it
because I'm in
okay?
the spot.
But only for now.
What do I?
I just been the wind beneath your wings. And now it's time for you to fly. On my own, dude. I don't know. Yeah.
Where am I gonna fly to?
I don't know. What do you want?
I want a serious girlfriend. I want a serious girlfriend.
What were you thinking right there? Did that just come?
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, because I thought
what you look like thinking on stage and what your character looks like thinking on stage are the exact same.
Yeah,
So you're like,
I was thinking like. I was thinking for a moment. I turned out, I had a second to sort of like think of what I want, because I was like, do I want to be your vice president? Is that it? And I was like, well, what's a more expansive choice? Like I could sort of loop in another sort of facet of our world if I want something else.
Right.
So I thought, well, what do college guys not usually want, or sort of what's going to be like the next thing? And the serious girlfriend came to me, and then I sort of did that double take. I want a serious girlfriend. I want a serious girlfriend. And just like
I didn't even think about that until right now.
just double down on my own idea, which sometimes is it. You just sell it to yourself a little bit, and then that's big. But I think what I like about that, and what I sort of love, I should have said earlier, what I love about your sort of earlier thing, like I'm going out to other chapters and so, is that it's such a great thing of like throwing out these loose ends.
Yeah.
Right? Because that could be like a tag out run, that could be another scene, could be one of those other chapters. Like that's so but what I think we sort of do wisely is we don't, and you especially, you don't get sidetracked by that. You're not telling me a ton about that, and you're saying that just enough to like sort of, here's the strings, maybe we use them later, whatever, but we don't sidetrack it in the same way Dying to Gasco wasn't sidetracked.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it for just a second. You want a serious girlfriend, and that's about right, man.
Yeah.
You're going into your junior year.
Yeah.
It's time for you to start maturing and being the man that you're supposed to be.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm done being a boy. I want to be a man.
Yeah.
You almost broke me on that line. I don't want to be a boy. I want to be a man. Like,
So once you say that, but I think this is the power of a good strong yes, is like, I didn't necessarily know that, and I didn't necessarily have that in mind, but when you say it and then I say yes to it really loud, then my sort of endocrine system just like sort of gears up, like that's what I want, and then I'm gonna do that now.
Yeah.
And so now that's my want moving forward. So now, and then I think the rest of the scene kind of like proceeds in light of this, of like us two guys like growing up in different ways.
yeah, and then trying to do it all at once, like very aggressively and bro. Like we're gonna start doing wine and cheese.
And
man.
thank you very much. I want you to erase my Pornhub account, man.
Wow.
I love that. I think what I love so much about that little moment is it's like a Pornhub account, but then your reaction to it like is the thing. Like that lends the gravity to it of like that this kind of like joke or whatever becomes now oh shit, dude, you're really growing up.
Yeah, it's always, again, because it's that idea of like, this is all comedy truth. They've been doing, I didn't invent turning the profane into the profound, and I certainly didn't invent it in that moment. Like, I'm trusting the stuff the work I've done, comedy history and knowledge and all that. So like Pornhub, I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna go for the cheap joke because Pornhub there's gonna be titters and giggles anyway. Wow, that's serious.
Right, and I think it does such a great job of taking that joke and then sort of building the foundation under it all of a sudden. So now it's not just a joke. Now it really says something about our character.
Yeah, you talk about like putting out those sort of lanes or like throwing out those sort of fishing nets for later on. I can bring someone out like, because you had Lauren Pritchard here earlier today. Like Lauren Pritchard's someone perfect that I could bring out and be like, Sarah, I know for a fact that he's serious about you. He had me delete his Pornhub account.
Right. So now that's currency in the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's in our scene or a string of our scene or in another part of the world that exists. Yeah.
And then she can play alternate reality in that world and be like, oh my God, did you really? Or she can go straight man on me. She's like, is that
a thing?
I mean, you
hold it, he has a Pornhub account? Like, or whatever.
not anymore. That's my point.
Right.
We all do. What? Really? All guys? Yeah, there are two kinds of guys. Guys who have Pornhub accounts and guys who are lying.
Right.
Right.
It's
that's
so nice.
another joke that's been around for forever.
For sure. A great one. And it's like, but that thing is like, the thing I really want to draw attention to is that, I don't want to lose it in all the great things you said, is that sort of your reaction, acting is reacting.
Yeah.
So your reaction to that like makes this joke a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really great, man. Really
Yeah,
great. It's so fun to play.
60. I know.
Someone is definitely living their life a quarter mile at a time.
First of all, almost impossible to not go down the Fast and Furious track. Like quarter mile at a time, I was like, oh, yeah. That was fucking good, man. That was really hilarious.
People don't give that movie series enough credit because, like, yeah, it's a mediocre movie, but like that's kind of the point of equality. People of color and women should have to have their own mediocre movies. And also, but it's just fun and exciting to that, and like, and that cast. The reason why it's $1 billion industry and it plays everyone on the planet. It's the most diverse cast in the history of
a great diverse cast.
Yeah, like
absolutely,
everyone is represented, and everyone's made to look like a hero. Like my nephew is autistic; he can watch Guardians of the Galaxy. He's got a Drax. He also doesn't like. It would nothing goes over my head. I'm too fast. I don't catch it. Right? So it's like how great let them be superheroes. Let them drive fast cars and drink Coronas and talk about family. Who cares? Love it.
It's great.
Right in front of me. That's right.
A little side note.
Yeah.
Didn't think that was coming, did you?
Setting off boy things. I'm turning to be a man now.
Yeah. No more beer. Let's start drinking wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get like a keg of wine?
Right?
The big. I mean.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
No, yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right.
Wine comes in barrels.
Yes. Yes.
Cutie barrels.
I love how excited your character is about like, can we do it? Yes, if it's big, it's a barrel. That's like a rodeo. Yeah. We'll still be manly.
Yeah, I think it's funny because we're sort of both. What at this point I'm sort of doing the calculus in my head is like, how did two bros become men?
Yeah.
Like, what do they think are the important steps? And then through the lens of being a bro.
Heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
But like
Kinda.
because of like, I'm fully aware that I am not aware of my privilege.
Yes. And I love that, but I think sort of to what you said, I'm a big believer in a big loud yes.
Yeah.
Like either like sort of loud in the biggest sense, but like not necessarily physically loud, but like forcefully loud.
Sure.
And then that I think that really solidifies an idea for you and for your partner.
Yeah.
A lot of great stuff.
It reminds me a lot of like, because I haven't heard you say like the big loud yes before. I'm like, yeah, I'm really into that. It kind of reminds me a lot of like J.D. Walsh and what he was doing over when he was still running the improv space or Ultimate Improv. It was called both of them at one point. Mm-hmm. But his thing is always like, go ahead and just have the character say, I love you, and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Like just
I think you're pushing all your chips in on an idea.
Yeah.
Yes, and then you're in on it, and then I think it cuts off a lot of stuff that it isn't, and it pushes you forward, and your endocrine system really ramps up, and here we go.
And less delay.
Of course. And that's it. If it was good enough for the
100%.
Roman legionaries, it's good enough for us.
Good enough for us.
That's right. Italians didn't drink beer.
No.
The Romans didn't drink beer.
No.
They drank wine.
Wine.
Olives.
Sophistication.
They're right. Thin breads. Thin meat split out. They hated beef. That was a cool thing I just found out.
So you're saying you want to bring like a nice charcuterie tray?
Right. Again, it's still playing that same game of like, what do bros think is sophisticated?
Yeah.
He's watching enough, like, and I'm just like, I'm bringing my sort of full thing to it. I think that's the right word. Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's the right word.
And so I think that's the right word. And so I'll play at the top of my intelligence. I think that's the right thing, so I'll say it. But then nice that you sort of like yes it, but in this way. I was just talking about this with Lauren, and you can check out her video. I'll link it at the end. We sort of talked about this idea, and I referenced Neil Flynn. I'll link his video as well, where he's like, you can yes in a lot of different ways, and one of them is like a suspicious yes, where you're like, hold on, what's happening?
Yeah.
And you just like, it sort of like gives you a second to sort of dial back and for the audience to get in, like, yeah, we were thinking the same thing. And now we're sort of going to take a second, just linger on this for a moment, and then.
Yeah, it's sort of the kind of thing where like I feel, for all intents and purposes, a game-based theory approach to improv is so ubiquitous now and so everywhere that a lot of people feel like that's the only way to do that you have to immediately go like, I don't know, or like calm out and like, yeah, so I love the idea of like, wait a minute, what was that word right now? But not being like this sort of like, well, you being a fag? Like
Right.
normal bro.
And also sort of back to what you were saying, you're not picking a fight with me.
No.
You're sort of like appreciating what I've said.
Yeah.
Right, which I think is a great unlikely yes, but really makes it.
I don't even know where that came from. Man.
What?
I don't know.
Is that what they call the thing with like meats and cheese?
I think so.
And every time there's like a sprig of rosemary on top, just
Dude,
like.
I think so. I think I'm channeling
Then
that.
But that little sort of explanation from you, that's what I think is what I really love about your work, is that detailed comeback on it. You know, just like this and that and that's, and like really kind of like a real fucking solid definition of what a charcuterie tray is.
Like a sprig of rosemary on the top.
Yeah,
That's
I would never
literally-
thought of that, but that's fucking great that you did. I think it just really, for me, I love that about your work. It's so fun to see that.
Well, thank you. That's literally what I just did.
Then I absolutely want that because it's perfect. It's sophisticated. It's very GQ. It's very Mad Men, but we're still eating meat.
Yeah.
I think we're on to something.
I think we're totally.
I think we're on to something. If I want to be president, you know who's not thinking about charcuterie plates?
Donnie McCaskill.
Thank you.
And then we're both
Russian chair you doing
this is
there,
why the
friend.
scene feels like it's about to end.
He's rushing himself into the history books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're sort of like coming. Let me ask you this: did you have Donnie McCaskill's name?
I could have found Donnie. I don't think I could have found McGaskill.
Right. And so I sort of thought like whenever someone pauses like that, you feel like there's like a blank. You're like, oh, they need a little alley-oop. So I'm like, I say the name.
Yeah,
or
filled
whatever.
in so that we don't do that. I mean, like, probably most of the audience doesn't care, but like Donnie McGaskill, you see halfway through the scene becomes Johnny McGaskill.
Yeah.
Danny. I'm like, all right, I heard of that. You're like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
hit me up.
It's nice, but just like making your partner look good and sort of like
Yeah.
helping them out or giving them that thing. But yes, I 100% agree. At this moment, I sort of feel like we're sort of like we've sort of run our course in this scene.
Yeah,
and
we're sort of
both
wrapping
feel
it
that.
up. Yeah.
So now, like you said, like at the end of a Herald, like pulling those things together. Now we're pulling together physically and mentally, emotionally, and I'm mirroring you. And it seems like this is coming to the
For sure. And like you say, like I kind of always sort of refer to the Herald as like the 3-minute pop song. When it's done well, it's the Beatles. When it's not done well, just turn on your radio right now. It's been proven that Max Martin and Dr. Luke are killing modern pop music. But it's the same thing, like, it's an intro, and then a verse, and a chorus, and a verse, and a chorus, and a bridge. A really good bridge makes the song. I think you can do that in a scene because those beats of 3 and all that exists. And then you say, like, also you're throwing those things out for later on in the show where you're doing it, where you can have, like, this bit. So, like, I can grab someone like Lauren and be like, I'm telling you serious. But also, again, this is just comedy 101 kind of stuff that's been shown to work before, and I'm absolutely going to use it. I would, because also I like to play very darkly and twist the knife. I got that from the old man, for sure.
Yes.
Well, it was already there, and he just brought it out me anymore. I would bring it back. I would probably bring this back like halfway through the show. Like, this was the first scene of the show. I probably wouldn't bring this back anywhere near than the first half, and I would have had us utterly failed. We're like, you know what? She doesn't deserve you, man. That's what you're like.
Right.
Oh, we didn't even get to see the girlfriend.
Right, yes.
Seriously, having you all be broken up.
Yeah, that's a great jump.
And then I'll do that scene all about that part of it, and I'll probably button the scene with something along the lines of like, anyway, oh shit, I'm late, man. Donnie's gonna kill me.
Right.
Like, oh, Donnie won.
Yes, I love it. So I think that's a real great sort of long form tip is that offstage action is sort of like pole vaulting, sort of like over that sort of A to B to A to M. 'Cause that's like a real A to M. That's like a real A to M pro connection.
Yeah, and also it's like, again, this is stuff that's been proven up. Shakespeare did this all the time. It's always like, oh yeah, him, he died over there.
Right.
There's a person who just came back you haven't seen in about 10 scenes to tell you like, oh, did you not hear? Such and such is dead.
Yes.
Because like it was also sort of a budgetary thing. There's only so many sword fights they could have. For eventually they're like, all right.
But this is it. This is what I love about your work. Is like you think so deeply about improv and you sort of have such a really wide sort of depth of knowledge. It's really fun to talk about improv with you. I feel like we're going to go a lot of different places, which is really fun.
Serious relationship. We're gonna start turning on the rest of the brothers onto like wine and being Roman soldiers, but nothing weird. Like, I don't want to go too far where it becomes like a Proud Boys thing.
Yeah,
that's lame. That's not good.
Still inclusive, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. But like aggressively inclusive. Being the change we want to see in the world, using our natural, white, straight, heteronormative anger energy, but for the forces of good. You know, like when Superman gets like really angry and he's had like enough. And he's just like, stay down! And his eyes get all red because he's gonna do lasers, but he's not. He's like, stay down. Right?
Very specific references to pop
It's great.
culture.
to me, this is the money, man. This is the money because I think this is what I love. This is what I love about it is like you sort of really do that thing of bringing yourself to your work because like, this sort of like it's like political and it's real, but then it's like pop culture, but then it's like pulling the whole thing together, and now we're back in the scene. And I'm just like laying back, like, no man, no, do it, just give me rope.
Yeah.
But it's really fun. That's what I really love about the work is that you You do these things, but in a way, in a really artful way that people who like to play this way, who want to play in a really intellectual sort of, what I think is an intellectual or provocative way, is that you do it in such a way that it's not preaching at the audience.
Yeah.
And it's not like throwing the lesson in their face, but still they can get it.
Yeah, no, that's an early lesson that Miles gave me very early on, and it really stuck with me, and it's formed one of the cores of how I approach the work, which is nobody wants to see a straight young white kid stand on stage and be like, racism is wrong, man. But play a believable racist, right? Play a believable one, not like a like, you know, like, oh, my young daughter home from school, first one in our family in college, I love you so much. Your mom's been slaving over that bird, right? So, Tyrone seems nice. You're like, oh, that guy's a racist.
Right.
Screw that guy.
Yeah. So you're engaging it in a more thoughtful manner.
Yeah. And then sort of for holding a mirror up to the audience, and if they don't like what they see, then who are you really angry at? I didn't think that was fair what you were doing tonight on stage. Like, what? And then Herb, like someone like Herb Cos, God bless his, God rest his soul. Yeah. He couldn't wrap his brain around that. So one time he dragged me out of iOS in the front. He was like, "What's your problem with the Jews?" Because I was playing a Nazi soldier, and I was like,
"The Jews,
nothing,
it's
Herb.
with the Nazis, Herb."
I was like, "You and I are friends. not a lot of. I wouldn't be friends with a Jewish man. And then I tried to explain the whole he was like, I don't know about that. Right. I was like, well, did I play a believable Nazi? Did you hate that guy? He's like, I thought he was terrible. I'm like, mission accomplished.
Yeah. So, but let me ask you that question.
I wasn't like the Hitler, the cool guy.
the cool Hitler.
Cool Hitler. I'm sure that's 10,000 different sketches have been done. Like, I'm the good Hitler.
Right. And those groups have all broken up.
Yeah.
It was the cool Hitler that really got it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what do you think is your responsibility to the audience in that respect? Do you feel like your responsibility is to entertain them, or do you feel like your responsibility is really to do your best art, and maybe they'll come along on that?
I sort of think, because it's always that conversation always comes up. Like, do we have respect for I think Maria Bamford approaches it in a pretty nice way, where she feels like you have a sacred duty to the audience to make sure that you're not wasting their time. But at the same time, she's also not advocating for pandering. I think that yes, people came to be entertained, but that doesn't necessarily that it means I have to be funny. I believe that our job as improvisers is to replicate recognizable human behavior that presented on the stage in such a way that the audience recognizes their own humanity, so we have a longer discussion, deeper transaction of ideas on how to heal the world.
Yep.
That doesn't, in no place in there did I said be funny. Just be truthful, be real, and be earnest. And then people were the human condition is funny. When we say the improviser triangle of smart, funny, interesting, FBL 3, funny doesn't come from here's your sandwich with crickets in it. That's old Bob Dassey example. He's like, here's a sandwich with crickets. Well, you better not eat it. He's like, don't pander to the audience, whack.
But I think that's really so important. So
funny comes from human empathy.
So you're sort of coming down on this that it's that it's your responsibility to be interested and not waste people's time.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to bring your best game to not waste their time, and they will sort of either get with that or not get with it, but you're doing your sacred responsibility, which is to fill the time with.
And I think that goes for every single one. There's a great, I'm a big Henry Rollins fan.
Sure.
And he has the book Get in the Van. It's all of his diaries from when he was on the road, Black Flag. And he was, they were in like Phoenix or Sedona, Arizona, somewhere in Arizona. And he was out in the parking lot being all bummed out. And Chuck Dukowski, the bass player, founder of the band, founder of SST Records with Greg Ginn, came out and was like, what's the matter? He was like, I was bummed that there was more people last year at this show and there was less this year. He's like, Dukowski just lit into me. He was like, it's not their goddamn fault that more people didn't show up. They showed up. You go out there, you play your ass off for them, you kill it and make it fun. And then maybe next year they'll tell all their friends and then they'll come back and it's like, but don't think you're going to go out there and half-ass a show. And I see that so much with improv. And I was in bands for years and years. I see that improv where you can see there's 7 people in the audience and the team is bummed that there's only 7 people in the audience. So I'm not saying that they're half-assing it, but the energy levels are I don't care. If there's 2 people in the audience, I will try and destroy their minds. I will make it absolutely worth their value because it's not their fault that more people didn't show up. They showed up, and then they'll have this great thing that they're going and only 2 people were there, and I couldn't believe, and you should have been there, man. And then if 25% of the people they tell get FOMO and then come to your next show, then great. But if you just go up there wow, well, there's only 7 people here, I guess we'll
Right, we'll do a 7-person audience.
Oh God, when I hear people say hey man, free rehearsal, right? I'm like, fuck you, no, this is a show. There's a front of the house, there's a jar, people parked and paid for it. This is not a rehearsal, so you can masturbate in front of the people that decide to be they're just the roommates of the guy that's holding rehearsal tonight. No, do that. Put on a show. Blow their minds. So I think I have to entertain, but I also don't I'm not a puppet. I'm not here to amuse you. So that's why I'm sort of notorious for being. It's happened very infrequently, but if there's a heckler, he picked the wrong show. I'm fucking deaf to that guy. I have done it where I've had at I.O. I had Johnny Archer throw on the house lights and I dared that guy to come on stage. And I'm like, come down and do a scene with me. I'll give you $100 right now if you come and do a scene with me on stage. Or do you want to continue to be a coward yelling out from the darkness? Thank you. Can we have the lights again? And I'll just go and that's what you need to do, man. I'll go right back into the scene. Everyone's like, ugh. Like, oh, it's like, oh, did Daddy hit Mommy at the table?
Right.
It's okay. Sometimes he gets crazy.
That's a Dane Cook joke.
Yeah, that's a Dane Cook
good
bit,
one.
which probably means Louis did it first. But that's all right.
Well,
Both of
that
them.
little slam.
Yeah.
But that's great. I mean,
But also
this is
Dane
it.
has a career now.
You really are totally getting vintage, as far as I'm concerned, vintage Brian O'Connell. That's exactly what I hoped for when I asked you to come do this. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
out.
Paul. I
It's
really
an absolute
appreciate it.
pleasure. But I will link your improv tip that you did a while ago at the end of the video here, and you can hear what Brian said really quickly, a little more slowly, and a little more deeply, and really sort of get all the juice out of it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hey friends, thanks for checking out the video, and if you want to hear a little bit more, check out one of these 2 quality videos. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and follow us on social media. All the links are in the description down below, and let me know what you would like to see an improv tip about. Thanks for watching.